The Supreme Court ruling on Roe v. Wade was a ruling that said that separate but equal was okay, and that segregation was alright. In turn to that, the Supreme Court ruling on Plessy v. Ferguson said that separate but equal was not alright, and that places must desegregate. Next is the Brown v. Board of Education. This ruling said that segregation in U.S. schools was not okay, and that all schools in the United States must desegregate. The Furman v. Georgia case set a precedent for the death penalty, saying what the rules are and who can be held to the death penalty. Regents of University of California v. Blake upheld that affirmative action was okay in the admission process. Mapp v. Ohio said they cannot use illegally obtained evidence in court rulings, saying that if evidence is found illegally in violation of the Fourth Amendment, that evidence cannot be used against a defendant in the court of law. Jeden v. Wainwright said that you must provide counsel for those who cannot provide it themselves. So if a person is unable to provide legal counsel for themselves, the state must appoint somebody for them. The United States v. Nixon case said that Nixon, president at the time, illegally wiretapped the Democratic offices to get an illegal uphand in the election against JFK. Tinker v. Des Moines stated that students at school have rights. Although limited, they still have their basic human rights. McLeod v. Maryland is stating the elastic clause, that they can stretch the truth, not necessarily the truth, but the law to help them in their case. The Hazelwood School District v. Colmer stated that the schools run newspapers have to have restrictions on what they can and cannot put in there on the basis of freedom of speech. Gitlow v. New York is the 14th Amendment extended the reach of the federal government. Schneek v. United States was a ruling about the United States draft during war, saying that people who obstructed the draft by giving out anti-draft cards and pamphlets and information against the draft were not actually doing anything illegal. Snyder v. Phelps upheld the ruling that speech on a sidewalk is not malicious or illegal in any way, and that you can say pretty much whatever you want. Gore v. Bush was on the presidential ruling of 2000 where they had to have a recount. The New York Times v. United States was a case saying that the New York Times could legally publish classified documents that had been leaked to them, even though they were still classified. Texas v. Johnson said that it was alright and protected under the freedom of speech and the First Amendment that you can burn the United States flag in demonstration. Cooper v. Aaron stated that states had to follow all court decisions, even if you were in a different state. Terry v. Ohio was a ruling on the stop and frisk policies and saying that it violated the Fourth Amendment. Engel v. Vital said that no public schools can offer prayer. So the students may do it on themselves, but it may not be school started. Korematsu v. United States said that the internment camps that the Japanese were put in during World War II were illegal and against their human rights, and that they required to be paid restitutions for that. The Dred Scott v. Stanford case is a major ruling in the Supreme Court history, saying that blacks have no standing in the court of law, for they're not human, they're not American citizens. Then Miranda v. Arizona were to get rights for people who are arrested, saying that they have the right to remain silent and that policemen tell them everything that they can be used against them.